Okay, we are live. All right, I'm not going to take a lot of time here because we need to get going. So great to have people joining in. I do like to go live a little bit or just do a little pre-show here just so that it's alert. People get alerted and they know that Mastering Metals is starting up. But yes, we are now live. All right, just see you in just a few seconds here. All right. Welcome, my fellow stackers. Great to have you here with me tonight for Mastering Metals. This is episode 17. Can't believe we've done this many Mastering Metals. It's a lot of fun. So glad you're here. I'm Yankee, your podcast host. I'm joined by Chase Turner, the CEO of SD Bullion, and James Anderson, a senior market analyst for SD Bullion. This will be their second time on with me, and let's bring them in right now. Hi, guys. How you doing?
Hey, Yankee.
Hey, Yankee. Doing well. Good evening.
All right. Yeah, guys, I just want to let you know that last month's podcast was really well received. You guys did a phenomenal job. I know it was your first time. Maybe a little nervous. Yeah, James is like, yeah, sure, right. No. You did awesome. I got some really good comments, and now it's St. Patrick's Day. Did you have a good one? Did you have a good St. Patrick's Day, guys?
I got young kids, so I didn't know it was St. Patrick's Day. James, did you do anything?
I had a good time watching videos online of the local parade, but no.
Well, I'm not even wearing green.
Well, I wore green earlier today because I'm 80% Irish, guys. So
okay.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So
I went to Ireland this past summer, so at least I can.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I got to get out there and actually trace down my ancestors in County Meath is where my ancestors hail from. So I got to get over there and check that out sometime.
Really pretty countryside.
Yeah, I'll definitely go. All right, guys, we got a lot to talk about. We should just get right into it with the first of our three regular segments, markets and macro. After that, we'll have some time with retirement insights, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. So, James, you're on right now, markets and macro. Gold hit 3,000, and last check, I'm looking at it right now, it held. It's been just vacillating over there. I know the futures markets are higher, but I'm looking at spot. It's above, and it looks like maybe this is it. What does that psychological barrier mean for gold investors and gold investing?
I mean, it's a big deal. 3,000 is a pretty big number. I think for older generations, especially younger people, it probably doesn't mean as much because they're just so conditioned by the cryptocurrency Bitcoin numbers and stuff. Which I gotta say, psychologically, thank you, Bitcoin, for what you did for gold, because it prepares people, I think, for a future where gold gets prohibitively more expensive than 3,000. I titled the past week's video, 3,000 will be seen as cheap. And I know it sounds pretty arrogant or whatever, it sounds like it's very, very tough bull market, way to title your video. But I think that's going to be true. In a matter of a few years, you'll look back and think, well, $3,000 gold was actually a pretty good price. What I do a lot of times, Yankees, I kind of getting to the point now with the fiat currency, you kind of have to take it out of the equation and start using gold versus other things. To kind of on a long-term historic basis to kind of gather whether or not it's getting near fair value, and then eventually probably when it goes to overvalue, because it was so undervalued for so long. Typically, markets will go from extreme undervaluation to relative fair market, and then they eventually go beyond and go into a place where they end up going into a bubble. And my contention is gold is going to be a bubble market at some point down the line, and it's probably maybe not this decade, but maybe early next that you get a situation where gold in five figures is something that happens.
Wow.
So 3,000 is good. The question becomes, every 1,000 mark that gold goes through, it has the fight. It has the kind of pop above it, and then it has a fight, and it
Right.
goes back down below it, and then eventually that number becomes support. If you remember, 1,000 was like that, 2,000 was like that. I expect 3,000 to be like that.
You
Wouldn't
had it.
surprise me to see it go to like 3,200, and then have like a smash down at some point this year. Let's, for instance, imagine there's a ceasefire in Russia and Ukraine, and you're short on the gold market, and you want to come in and pound down the price back to the 200-day moving average. That would be a way, perhaps it could happen. A ceasefire, peace on earth, all that kind of stuff. And then, gold revisits its 200-day moving average, which happens all the time in bull markets, and then it bounces off and keeps going up with the wall of worry. And that's, I think, where we are.
I wonder about the psychological impact of 3,000. What does that do for retail investors? The physical stuff that we get at the local coin shop or on sdbullion.com or whatever. Does this drive more people to buy or sell when we hit these psychological barriers and break through?
I think if people buy gold for the right fundamental reasons, which is, too much debt, a situation where obviously the world is changing from, a unipolar US dominated system to a more of a multipolar. We don't know necessarily what's going to happen with the dollar because we have 100, 200 trillion in unfunded liabilities. What are they going to be doing with that? Historically, they usually devalue the dollar to get through that. I think if people understand the fundamental drivers for why you have a position in gold, you wouldn't just go take some measly profits in the short term. I mean, it's okay to take some profits along the way. Don't get me wrong. But I think you have to have a core position at all times, at least until you get through the situation where all the factors why you own gold, have gotten knocked off the list. Then maybe you draw down your position to a smaller, more reasonable level compared to other things you own.
You mentioned Friday's video. That was excellent as usual, James. I loved the interesting factoid of spot gold breaking $1,000 an ounce 36 and a half years after Nixon closed the gold window and let the price float. So 36 and a half years to get to 1,000. Then to get to 2,000 an ounce, it took 12.5 years. And then 3,000 an ounce just 4.5 years after that. It's like it only takes like a third of the time to blow past each additional 1,000. So that's got to mean that we're going to hit $4,000 an ounce by the end of next year, right? Right. Another year and a half.
That's why in the video when we went through it, I thought in my mind, like, I know everybody's doing the math right as I'm reading this, and I actually put the words in there so you can see the math. And the assumption, right, that you could run through the end of 2026 without a recession or any type of drawdown like we had when we first passed 1,000, and then we had the global financial crisis and it went down to $700. And I remember selling a lady a gold kilo at like $900 an ounce over spot because there was no gold to be had. There was days where we literally didn't have inventory. That's the kind of situation you could find yourself in. Bad enough recession happens. I still contend that the second half of the global financial crisis is still coming and somewhere out there. I don't know where. And it'll probably be a lot louder and bigger than the first one. So, the idea that everything's smooth and we just go to 4,000 at the end of 2026 does not jive with history. History is generally a wall of worry, right? And so you kind of have this volatility as you slowly make your way up. And what I would suggest is we got to start using logarithmic charts too, and try not to use linear charts. Just linear charts. $3,000 gold looks scary, but if you put it in like a long-term chart throughout the full fiat currency era, 3,000 is just on the way up the slope as you move up into a higher bull market.
Yeah, I was thinking back on that $1,000 an ounce. What was that? 17 years ago? Is when I bought the Yankee can. I got my Yankee cannon back when it was $1,000 an ounce for these things, and now it's $3,000. It's just it's mind-boggling to me.
It's early 2008. You had gold running at 1,000 and silver running in the low 20s, and it was so the market was so hot that I think it contributed to Bear Stearns collapse. That was what was happening, and then obviously you had the global financial crisis, silver cut in half or more,
right? And
then gold went down to 700, and then once the QE hit, the rebound happened very quickly.
Once the QE hits, that is a very important thing because I don't think we've seen the last of QE. When things really get bad, I think we're going to revisit that. But let's switch to silver for a minute? I have a whole bunch of Twitter or X tweets, some stuff that I've seen, and I love being able to have you on, James, because you can cut through all the crap and say, Yankee, that's something we need to be concerned about and talk about, or that's a bunch of hopium and that's crazy, or whatever it is, right? So let me run a couple things by you. This right here. So I saw this on X. Countdown to the silver squeeze, a silver squeeze you can buy into as a tidal wave of metal makes its way into the U.S. The LBMA's free floating silver inventories have now inadvertently drained by roughly 100 million year to date. That's down 33%. 33. Is that significant?
Yeah, it is. This is the lowest London's silver inventory has ever been on record. And when you go down, there's other guys who track this as well. The last data point I saw was the free float, free float meaning there's ounces there that aren't claimed by ETFs that are held over in London.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you have 170 million ounces roughly of free float, quote unquote. No one knows exactly who owns the 170 million of those ounces and whether or not they even be for sale. I think the key when it comes to this stuff is to look at the silver lease rates in London. If the silver lease rates have been going up, I think there have been times where they've been jumping into the low teens. And so that's the key, is really, because what that means, what that signals to the market is that, hey, we don't have any silver, or we're trying to attract silver into our market again because we're going to need it. And so we'll pay this percentage, to borrow that silver and to use it, and then, eventually get it back to you once we get some other silver.
I'm going to come back to the loaning because there was something else I saw on X that made me very interested in the silver squeeze. I had a chart. I saw a chart, and the author called this the silver squeeze on steroids. Look at this. This is PSLV, okay, and it's the short volume. And look at where we're at now versus back in 2021, Silver Squeeze 1.0. It dwarfs that short volume. Are these shorts keeping a lid on the price for silver? Is this something we should be really keenly aware of?
So there's been allegations a couple times, like just because there's so many shorts in PSLV, that doesn't mean it holds down the global spot price or the global futures, prices of silver. I think, I've talked to an associate of mine, someone I've known for years in this industry. He works, he runs an institution, and the largest position of silver in the PSLV is under his purview. I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking. I asked him over the weekend, what's going on there, mate? I'm sure you've been on it like a hawk, because he's constantly concerned about his shareholders. And he came back to me stating, he went down the rabbit hole a little bit and talked to them, and basically it looks, the chart scary, obviously. It's about 4 times the amount of shorts that were at the peak of the silver squeeze. But what it sounds like to me is that it's, when you have a brokerage account and you have PSLV shares, most brokerage account agreements, basically you just agree and you don't really read the thing. And then later you come to find out, oh, they can just in the back room, they can just loan out my shares to whatever deal makers they want to borrow it. And they'll make a percentage while they loan the shares out, because it's kind of like fractional reserve banking in the sense that they know your shares are just always going to be there, and they'll owe you the shares, and they'll just lend it out to somebody who's going to do high frequency trading and other things.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah. So I think what's happening is that's what's going on. And so the suggestion is, people who are in the PSLV shares need to call up their brokerages and tell them to move them into non-margin accounts, so they can ensure that their brokers don't lend them out behind their backs.
It's a good point. That actually brings up this next tweet I saw on X. This is Kevin Brambro, which you know who that is, right?
Yeah. So he worked with Sprott before the PSLV was launched, I believe, or maybe he left just at the beginning when it was getting off the ground. So he has a really good, understanding of how Sprott works and how these different schemes work. So he is a pretty, this take is exactly where I got. I mean, this is this is a source. I mean,
Yeah.
this is a guy who works for Sprott for many years.
Yeah, let me read this. It says, if you want to see a massive silver squeeze, owners of SLV and PSLV only need to move their shares, like you said, to a non-margin account and ensure their brokers can't lend the shares. This collective action alone would lead to a run on the COMEX and a complete drain of the silver. 100% certain. Do you agree with that?
I mean, that's a lot of certitude. I don't know.
I know, right?
It's like for me to
100%
sit there and
certain.
say, yeah. I mean, I don't say 100% on virtually anything. I'm trying not to get.
You never do it 100% of the time, right?
Yeah, I mean, nothing is guaranteed except for death and taxes, right? But I mean that guy, he worked for a long time with Sprott, and for him to put that in black and white, that's pretty bold.
I got one more for you. All right. This one, people have been sending this to me. It just happened on the 14th. There was a delisting notice. Let me just bring this up for people to see. There you go. Delisting from the COMEX, CME group, COMEX, right? They said there's delisting of the gold kilo futures, London Sprott gold futures, London silver spot futures, and cleared OTC London gold forwards contracts. And a lot of people are making a big deal out of this. Does this mean anything, James?
I don't think so. The CME group has a lot of things, different types of products that they have that just aren't used, basically that aren't traded. Like, for instance, they have a 400-ounce gold futures contract that they invented out of thin air in March 2020 in order to count, 400-ounce bars in the warehouses, and say, look how much gold we now have. And that was a big reason why, like, when 2020 came around, it was like, okay, well, they're obviously desperate. They need to combine forces now so they can double count gold. This is not as important as I think what they've been doing the last couple of years. The CME's added micro gold futures accounts in 10-ounce sizes and 1-ounce sizes. Okay, and for me, that's important for the sense that it's a combination of a few things. Obviously, they want to have more trading revenue and small fish with plankton for to feed on. Obviously 100-ounce gold contracts, it's a little bit cost prohibitive for your average retail investors, and they want to attract more retail investors into their casino. And the other thing is, like, just on a long scale, like if you start to get gold at 5 digits, like I talked about earlier, like that 100-ounce gold contract is probably going to get it's probably going to become the less traded contract. It'll end up being the 10-ounce gold contract that becomes the market maker. That's the one that most people will be trading in because the cost will get so prohibitive. And then, you look at, like, in 2015, they made a rule change for their circuit breaker rules. And, this was in 2015, they did this. In palladium, they hit virtually all of them, it seems, because, they have a level 1 to level 4. For palladium, it was $50 an ounce in one day, or $100 an ounce, level 2, 150, level 3, 200, and level 4. My guess is they at least hit half those when palladium six-folded and, the years that followed. They also did it for gold futures. The level 1 is $100 an ounce, level 2 is $200 an ounce, level 3 is $300 an ounce, and level 4 is $400 an ounce. And that's just in one-day moves, right? On the silver side, they did it as well. They have $3 an ounce, $6 an ounce, $8, $9 an ounce, and $12 an ounce. So that's the type of movements that they had planned for, 10 years ago, looking out in the future that eventually we'd have some wild swings like that. So yeah, that's the more important thing to me. It's not necessarily this small little thing that everyone's getting excited about.
Oh, well, thank you on that. But silver inventories being depleted, that is a cause for concern.
I think so. You have a huge amount of gold, silver that flowed into the COMEX. The last time this happened was COVID 2020. It peaked. It's not. We're above it now, where we were in COVID 2020. But there was a huge drain effect that happened in the next few years, where a lot of that silver left the COMEX. And my hunch is that we'll see a similar type of thing happen again, where we'll peak at a certain point, probably not too long from now. And then you'll start to see it roll over and go downhill. And in all these markets, palladium specifically, palladium is the one I look at a lot in the late 2010s, because it foreshadows, I think, what's going to happen in silver and gold. Palladium you could see the NYMEX palladium inventories and the all the ETFs that had palladium. They basically just start changing rules and sucking all the palladium out because the price is going up and there's a real shortage. And so you just see the palladium inventory go down, and you see the spot price gap up 4 or 5, 6 times
Wow.
from its lows. So
Hmm.
my hunch and contention is you're gonna see the same thing happen in silver and gold. Though all those unsecured ETFs, a lot of them are troubled, and or at least they'll lose a lot of inventory, and they'll come up with all types of reasons why they have to use that inventory. Shareholders be damned. So that's the concern.
Chase, this kind of reminds me of our conversation with Josh Fair,
Yeah.
CEO of Scottsdale Mint, and what he said to us on last week's Silver Pro podcast. What did you think of the challenges that they faced, sourcing their silver or getting it? It was pretty amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it kind of scared me because I don't work on that side of the business. That's Cole's side of the business, as you know,
Right.
and so I haven't got to hear that yet. And that has the potential to really cause some short-term issues. I think a lot of it, most of these things get worked out over time, but it certainly brings up the premium conversation, right? If you're thinking about buying
Mm,
silver, it's kind of what we talked about on that, right? That's kind of what I was talking about. Like, hey, yeah, silver's at $33, but if silver goes into another kind of shortage, like we've seen over the past couple of years, and premiums, 4, 5, 8, 10x, well, you know, silver could be at $35, but your total price in's $45, right?
wow.
So, yeah, I mean, look, am I saying that's going to happen? No, but the fact that, look, there's not that many mints in the US. Okay. There's not that many players in the US in general. And so when you look at mints, you got, well, I'm not going to name some of the competitors. Obviously, we're linked with Scottsdale, but there's not a lot of them, right?
Right.
And they're that produce at his level, and they're vying for silver. And so if he's having trouble finding silver, that means everybody else is having trouble finding silver, right? And
Mm,
it was linked to the two things, right? The LBMA lease rates, like James was talking about, and the situation with the tariffs in Mexico, where 50% of it was 50% of the raw silver, at least that they were buying. I
right.
think he said for everybody, right,
He
was
did.
coming from that one mine in Mexico. So,
Yep.
yeah, I mean, that could be, depending on what Trump decides, that could be a real issue for silver supply, which again, you might not see it on the price because that's unfortunately not how the physical market works. It doesn't really work with supply and demand on the retail side, but you can certainly see it in premiums. And yeah, that's never fun for the retail investor when that happens.
Well, I've been.
So
Oh, go ahead.
on
Sorry, James.
a long timeline, like I'm looking at 90% silver coin premiums, and since the global financial crisis to now, that's roughly 17 years. We've had 5 eras where the 90% premium over spot have gone up into like big spikes. So 5 times in 17 years means it's going to happen again. It's just a question of how long, until, and we're at a low point now, and usually you bottom at the low and then you go up in a U and you go up into a new spike phase. So eventually, I think anyone who's in the market, if you're looking at 90% right now, that might be one of the greatest
Oh my
deals.
God.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing that we kind of knew about, Josh actually touched on, was a lot of these people have been melting anything, 90% sovereign
Yeah.
coins.
Crazy.
So, think about that. You're nuking existing supply. So, whenever that shortage, whenever that pop does come, now there's less to actually reach for from the secondary market. So it's just like you talked about earlier, James. Everything. You can look even on SD bullion charts. When you look at peaks in the market, they come harder, faster, and go higher faster, and then they also kind of come back down faster as well. But yeah, these things happen just out of nowhere, and so I guess the message is always buy now. I wanted to make another point though, Yankee, real quick if I
Yeah. Go
can, because
ahead.
I think it's interesting to discuss real quick. So, talking about the price of gold at 3,000, I was listening to Rich Roll talk recently, and he was talking about $25,000 gold and saying it's $25,000 gold. It's kind of a shock and all statement, right? But he's like, gold went from 250 to 2,500, it already 10x. So is it really that big of a thing? It's like, no, not really. So I took it a step further and said, well, gold was $20 an ounce once, and at $3,000 an ounce, that's
Whoa.
150 times up. So you'd have to get to $450,000 of gold from here, right, to do another 150. And that leads me into my next comment, which is what we talked about. I called the pregame. Uh, I think measuring gold specifically, maybe not so much silver, because I kind of look at it a little bit differently. But measuring silver in dollars is kind of a worthless cause. Of course, I want to pay less fiat dollars as I can for an ounce of gold, but at the end of the day, um, when you're talking about going from 1,000 to 2,000 to 3,000 in that time period, think about how much money was created, and so I'm always looking at gold in terms of what it's buying, right? What other asset classes it's buying, even milk and gas, for example. But I was on the phone with my best friend last week. He in Oklahoma City, we know how California is, we know how New York is, we know how the coastline of Florida is. We're talking about, middle of Oklahoma. Okay. The first house him and his wife bought 15 years ago, 900 square feet, $60,000. This is not in a booming place in the city. It's just in a regular place in the city. 15 years ago, $60,000. He's looking at selling that house for $250,000 this year. So that's a 4x, right?
Yep.
And I mean, I couldn't, because I've been there. We call it the Hobbit Hole. Okay, that's the nickname, the Hobbit Hole. This is a tiny, like 2-bedroom, one house in Oklahoma, and he's selling it for $250,000. And so my brain automatically went to the numbers and was like, "Hang on, that's 15 years. So that's saying that in the next 15 years, if we keep the same pace, that house you'd have to pay $1 million for it, right? $1 million in Oklahoma, right in the middle of the country." So my next question is, what the hell is a dollar worth? It ain't worth anything. And so these numbers, if we measure in dollars, are just going to get super silly.
I agree with you.
And
it's just
you
the
have
mindset.
to let your brain go there.
But we do. And I've told many stackers out there to price your gold and silver in terms of real goods and services and compare it to the S&P 500, compare it to property, compare it to a lot of other asset classes, and you will see over the long term the true value come out. If you talk about it in terms of dollars, it can get you messed up. But here's the challenge: we buy this stuff based on this spot price, right? We're almost slaves of it, and it is a challenge for the everyday stacker to see what you're talking about, right? They just look at that number. They see $33 an ounce for silver, and then they look at the GSR. I want to bring this up to you guys. The GSR, this is a long-term chart, 88.5 right now, right? So taking out the 2000, let's take out COVID, right? And just smooth this out. It has been climbing steadily up and up and up and up and up since 2011, right? When silver was, much higher in value. So when is this going to revert back to the mean? When are we going to actually see rational, ratios here between gold and silver?
Yeah. I guess the question is, what is rational at this point?
It should be a lot
I
lower.
I don't know.
It
Should be a lot lower. I mean,
oh yeah.
Keith Neumeier says you pull, out 7 ounces of silver for every 1 ounce of gold out of the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in a 5-year silver deficit. I don't know. I mean, it should definitely be lower, right?
50, 60, no sweat in my mind. At some
Yeah,
point.
yeah. I was, for me, like 40.
We were in the 30s back in 2011. So
even in February 2021, it spiked down to 62, right? In February 2021.
That's true.
So, and it's bounced up and kind of gone up in a channel, and it's been kind of stuck for a long time around that range that we're 90. It's popped above 90 a couple times, barely, and then dipped below. Right. But ultimately, when I'm talking about a bull market, like I lived and worked through the 2011 bull market, and the low there was in the low 30s. And if you think the 2011 bull market in silver was big, the next bull market, the big mania that I think is coming in silver should drive it to at least that level and probably lower. And it's very easy for people to rationalize that when you have gold in the 5 figures and everybody looking at gold and thinking, man, that's expensive, and then they go to buy silver. And so that ratio generally tightens up historically. And that's not just in the United States, that'll be around the world too. You're already seeing it in Asia and places like that where silver is starting to become a little bit more of a hot purchase. Especially speculators look at it and they see that ratio too, and they think, man, if silver just does, 3 times more performance than gold, imagine how well I'll do. This gold's going to be doing fine, and silver will be doing 3 times the effect. And so that's what ends up happening. We're in a world that's awash with capital that's going to be looking for places to go, and especially places that are proven stores of value. So to me, it's really a game of patience and just dealing with the fact that you can still get silver so cheaply in relative to gold, but that won't last. Eventually, it'll go into a mania, and you're starting to hear it already.
Right.
People, silver's the new gold, or silver's better than gold, and all that kind of stuff. And they're totally, of course, they have similar properties, but they're also different markets. So you have to keep that in mind as well. I mean, the silver is just going to be a lot more volatile, so you got to be ready to ride that, because it's more volatile in terms of a bull market. It moves a lot faster and wider ranges.
So we're gonna get into the retirement insight section with Chase in just a minute, and then the Q&A. So hopefully you guys have some really good questions out there. But before we get to that, Chase, what silver and gold are hot sellers at SD Bullion? And I'm showing some right now on my screen. So
Yeah.
that
Oh,
I
you are?
love.
Okay.
That I love.
Yeah. 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 In general, I think you always have your U.S. Mint stuff, your Canadian Mint, your Britannia Mint. People are pretty smart about checking our deals page. I think that's how you found some gold at spot the other day.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I haven't
so
opened it up yet, but this was an amazing fractional gold deal that you had. I didn't post about it, but I probably should have. I snagged some. That was good. But I'm actually
yeah,
holding the Scottsdale Mint Cowboy Rifleman round that I bought. This
it's
gorgeous coin.
beautiful. Yeah.
Oh my goodness! Do you still have these out? They're not sold
Yeah,
out,
yeah,
right?
the rifleman we do. We don't do, at SD Boeing, we don't do a ton of launches. We're pretty particular with what we take on because we want to make sure that our customers are rewarded. And so if we do too many launches and too many programs, I don't think you're going to see the value. So we want to really promote programs that we know are going to have value in the future.
Mm-hmm.
We did the Brit Lib recently on Silver
Yeah,
Pro, the
I'm sh-
Britannia Liberty,
I'm showing that
the
now.
US
Yeah,
Mint.
yeah.
Yep, that gold already sold out,
Gold's
right?
gone.
The gold's gone. You can still get the graded coins because they came in a little late.
Okay.
But we recently launched the Commander series with Scottsdale with Grant.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Those are nice to kind of show off and have for fun. You're going to be doing this for a long time. If you just start stacking, you're going to be doing this for a long time. So get something that you enjoy to look at from time to time. That's not just an eagle or buffalo or something. And that's what these programs are for.
I did buy a tube of your, you had some just 1 ounce, your choice rounds. So that's your base.
Yeah,
I grabbed a
course,
tube
yeah.
of them. All right. But
Yep.
yeah, the riflemen were so beautiful. I had to grab some of those.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yep.
So people are
Yep.
still, you're still seeing this interest even as gold is hitting $3,000 an ounce. It's not dissuading people from getting in, right?
No, I don't think, like James said, in some ways the world is flush with with capital. And, as it goes higher, obviously it gets more affordable, even for people like me, but that's why they make fractionals. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a bunch of different ways to stack gold. And again, if you're looking for deals, that's what SD Boy's deals page exists.
Yeah.
And we usually try to keep something on there for every type of stacker. So, I mean, I see that we have a stacker bag on there right now, right? Fractionals. We have quarter ounce cross and flag silver bars, 10th ounce cross and flag bars at, 19.99 over spot. I mean, that's very affordable,
Oh
especially
yeah,
if you
those are good.
compare it to our competitors. So,
Yeah.
even as gold climbs higher, you can still stack smaller versions of it to get into the game. But
Mm-hmm.
no, in February, we saw a lot of people coming to Gold Yankee. It was really reminiscent of what happened during the Silicon Valley Bank collapse. People wanted into gold. The demand is still elevated
Mm-hmm.
compared to the norm, even though I mean, people always say it all the time, and it's so true. Like, what is the norm after COVID? And that's even true in our industry. Like, 2024 was such a different year already than 2025. It's so unpredictable, but it's good seeing the demand come in for gold. It's good for it to be in mainstream media. It's hard to see how that's going to slow down anytime soon. Like James said, a ceasefire, but I think there's so many other factors around gold, and
Do
we'll
you
see
think?
what Trump ends up doing.
Do you think this? All right, I'm going to say recession fears because that's what they trumpet on the front page. The mainstream
Yeah.
media loves to blame this on Trump. This is Trump's recession, all that. But do you think this talk of recession is holding, especially silver, down? Is that gonna, because of the industrial use and maybe the demand industrially will be down if we truly did have a recession? Do you think that factors in at all, James?
I mean, personally don't think it does in terms of bullion, because what ends up happening if you have a washout in spot, uh, for some reason, people have to cut and run out of their margin accounts and futures accounts.
Right.
What ends up happening is everyone rushes to buy bullion, and all the inventory that's free and floating and the available inventory supplies gets sold out, and ends up being a wash because the premiums get gapped out because people have to protect and stay in business whatever inventory they have. Because at that point it becomes one of those situations where it's difficult to replace inventory. So
Yep.
when I look
Yeah.
at silver, the idea of getting bullion below 30 an ounce is hard for me to fathom again. I think we might have those days behind us. That's essentially what I'm thinking. And this year it's still very probably. If you have silver threatening 34, it's not going to surprise me to see it get to 35 pretty quickly. And when you look at like a long-term chart, the idea of it getting to 38 or 42 spot this year is totally in the cards, and it could go beyond that even if it overshoots just this year. But ultimately, that 2027 date, the year that we were talking about earlier, I think it would be surprised. It would surprise me if we're not beyond 50 an ounce by that point.
And 4,000 an ounce for gold by the end of 2026. You said that, right?
Yeah, I'll give you the 2027. I'll give you the 2027 maybe later in the year.
I'm just kidding you, man. All right, let's shift gears to the retirement insights. Chase, let's just touch on one thing that I have been getting a lot of email on, and that is some concerns of moving some of people's current IRAs or 401ks into a gold and silver IRA. And then, guys, get ready with your questions. I'm going to put that up there in the chat. You can start filtering in your questions. We're going to get there in just a few minutes. But how would you address this concern I've heard? Yankee, if I do this, is my gold or silver really there in ST Bullion's vault physically?
Yeah.
And is it only mine?
Yeah. No, it's a fair question, especially, I mean, we could have a full podcast just about this industry in general, and how plenty of people have taken metal or taken dollars really, and never even put the metal in the inventory. Look, what I always say to people, because we get this from time to time, and people will ask for photos and stuff, right?
Oh, they
And
do? They tell you to go out into the vault and take a picture?
Yeah, but if you've been there, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's pretty impossible to actually do that. And so I get,
Rocco
people
would
are
shoot
wanting
me if I went in there unannounced.
well, yeah, just in general, like the way it's set up, like you can't, because of how it's put in the box and everything, like.
Right.
And so what I answer this to people is like, look, what you should be looking at on the SD Buoyant side is, we're the only person that I'm aware of, because most people don't want you in their facility just for security reasons, right? We're the only dealer that I'm aware of that has invited our influencers in there multiple times, right?
Yep.
Trusted people with video cameras. We've given them tours. We invite all the world mints, and then they go on camera. This is the difference. Sure, world mints have definitely visited some of our competitors, but then they go on camera in our vault, and we do podcasts and we talk about it, right? So we try to put as much stuff online as we can to say, like, look, it's here, and this is how it's processed. But for security reasons and really IP reasons, we can't exactly show you exactly where your metal is on the shelf, because it's in the clear plastic container that's sealed,
Okay.
right? That's
all right. However, I'm going to be doing this myself. I'm going to, eat my own dog food here. I'm going to roll over a bunch of money from a former employer of mine. So I want in on this, but yet you got to invite me back. You got to get Rocco to escort me back there, because when all this is done, I want to video the whole process, and I want to actually see my gold and silver. I'd love to see my name there, or I'll
we'll
take
have to
the
figure it out.
barcode and block it out. But
I
I
don't
want to
think your
go.
name, I
I
think it's
want
a
to
barcode,
open it
yeah.
up, and I want to see my metal segregated and take a video of just that. Right? Of course, you'll have to screen everything to make sure I don't violate something. But I really want to, because I want to know for myself. But I want everybody who watches that to feel as confident in it as possible. So Again, this isn't, this doesn't replace your own stacking. That comes first. Get your own metals like I do and hold it in your own vault. But this is stuff that's already in a retirement asset account, whether it's 401k or an IRA. If you already have this, you need to hedge. And there's no better place in my book than SD Bullion to hold your gold and silver, at least temporarily. At least
Yep.
temporarily. At least until I take have you guys
Take
mail it
it.
out to me. Right. I
Yeah.
eventually I'm going to
Send it
want it
wherever
out.
we send it.
Right. You send it to me and I'll be happy. Right. But I also will be happy to have something physical that, I can't hold my IRA right now anyways. I can't hold it. So is
Yeah.
it
You
mine?
can't
I'd
take
rather
it.
have it physical in gold and silver. Um,
Yeah.
but last question that I wanted to ask you is the cost. This is something else that people email me about all the time. What is it going to cost me to, at least temporarily, have you hold physical gold and silver for me in your secure vaults?
Yeah. I'm gonna answer that, but I want to say two other things about the other topic real quick.
Okay, sure.
The other thing that we're doing very soon is we're launching an online portal where you'll be able to register your account. This is brand new. I was just looking at it today for my own account. So I have two accounts up there, just so you guys know. One's personal, one's a retirement account.
Mm-hmm.
For me personally, I prefer to have my metal not stored at my house. I have a few different locations. It's just peace of mind. Um, but it's really nice because I can log in for the first time and I can actually see my medals that I've purchased. And yeah, you don't know. Again, you could
It's
always
on
say, well,
paper,
they're
right? It's on
online.
the
I'm not.
screen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's sure nice to see it, right?
Sure.
And so that's coming. And the other
Okay.
thing that I don't hear a lot of people talk about with retirement accounts, most of the feedback you get is, oh, if you don't hold it, you don't own it, yada yada.
Absolutely.
Which again is not what we're talking about. But one thing we should mention, especially since this is mastering metals, as I think this has actually just come to me this year. Uh, I think I'm in my 15 or 16 year in the industry, you know, and I'm learning more and more about, and James is much better at this than me, but I'm learning more and more about how to actually make money in gold and silver, right? So whether you're talking about the GSR, you're talking about premium deltas, whatever it is,
Right.
well, if I can make a 30% clip in gold or silver, I'd much rather do that for me personally because I'm in my 40s. I'd rather do that in my IRA where I don't have to pay cap gain taxes on anything and I can just play
Right.
those games. So what I actually do with mine is my personal is a stack and my IRA is actually a money making game for me
Interesting.
because I don't have to pay capital gains on anything, right? And so that's
Hmm.
how I personally look at it. And so
Hmm.
uh,
Okay.
there's
So it fits
the
that.
tax free side.
It
Yeah,
fits that approach really well. I think I don't play those arbitrages. I don't do that much with my metals.
yeah,
I'm a prepper stacker, so I kind of like to have
yeah,
it for worst case scenarios. It's a savings account. It's in a wealth insurance for me, not an investment in the traditional word. But that's just my perspective. I see yours, and I see that could be very valuable for people, especially again in a tax. Deferred type mode there. Um,
yeah.
Costs. Talk to me about costs,
Cost.
though. Yeah.
Yep. So it's pretty straightforward. It's on our website. We're pretty industry leading on this. So it's 29 basis points for gold or platinum,
Hmm.
which is 0.29% per year
Okay. Yep.
paid monthly, and 39 basis points on silver. So to put that in perspective, because as you know, we talked about before, I have a self-directed IRA, you as well. I
Yep.
direct it not just into metal, I direct it into other things. A lot of the other things that aren't your stock market, they're at 100 to 200 basis points, right, for the management fees. So gold and silver is pretty cheap. The difference is the thing that you see a lot with gold and silver for people that are new into the IRA space is you actually see the fee, right? Because you're actually going to get charged the fee. And a lot of people say, "Oh, I never see the fees." I say, "You're paying those guys 150 basis points to manage that, fund for you over there. This is 29 basis points if you're gold, 39 if you're silver,
Right.
right?" So it's priced pretty competitive compared to other investments you can get into. But yeah, that's the prices per year,
That's good to
billed
know.
monthly. Yep. And I'll tell you, we're working on another promo that's going to be out. We're really pushing for April, where we're going to be offering some free storage options to
Ooh,
get people, some alleviation from that to get them in the game.
nice.
Yep.
I hope my gold and silver Yankee rounds are out by then. Probably
Yeah,
not.
Two
me
points,
too.
real,
No,
two
probably
points real
not.
quick on their fees for their IRAs.
Hmm.
It's below the unsecured ETFs like SLV or
Yeah.
PSLV,
Good point.
and it's below the physical for Sprott, and then
Yep.
I believe it's below the GLD. So, and it's just a question of, what do you think is safer? For me personally, I had to leave the country and live offshore for 5 years, and I left like I don't know how many 100-ounce bars, some odd 20, 22 or 23 with them,
Hmm.
and came back 5 years later, and didn't tell anybody. But the day when I came to visit, I called the account manager or the people who are in charge, and I'm inside of the actual vault facility, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to take those bars with me today. And so I basically won, trust but verify. And so
Yeah.
the next thing you know, I'm walking out of there with the exact bars, all the serial numbers, the exact same things. So
Yeah.
I
5 years
basically
ago. Yeah.
wanted to call them on it and see how it went, and it went perfectly, flawlessly. And
Yeah.
so it makes me confident to put my name and my reputation on it, and that's partly why I pulled it. I wanted to see it in action, and it was exact what I gave them, and I got back. So
Yeah, exactly. Those prices are for allocated. There's no doubt there's cheaper storage out there, but it's totally unallocated. It's totally unverified. It's totally untested. Um, the horror stories that you see behind the curtain, it's not something I would ever do with my personal. I would rather pay a little bit more and like James said, know that I'm getting out what I put in,
Yeah.
versus ship it off somewhere. It goes in a pile, and whenever you want it back, hopefully whatever you get
Hopefully
from the
it's
pile
there.
is actually
No, no, no,
real.
no, no, no,
Yeah,
no. I would not be moving what I'm about to move over to you
yeah,
guys if that was going to be the case. And it isn't. I mean, I've already gotten a good sense of, I've done videos on it, and I see you were really nice to let me see a little bit behind the scenes. Not everything, but able to see this is legit. And I feel very confident in being able to move what I can't touch now, anyways, until I'm 59 and a half into your vault. So I'm very happy about that. And fees seem absolutely reasonable. So again, I'm going to do it with my own money.
yeah.
I would not promote or tell someone to look into this and do it if I don't do it. So I have to do this. All right. So let's get into some questions. What do you think?
Last thing, real quick.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
IRA.SD Buoyant. So that's a new
Oh,
website
yeah,
we
yeah,
put
yeah.
together.
Thank you
Go
for
watch
saying
Tyler
that.
and I's podcast. We cover everything you need to know and more about the gold and silver retirement world and what to avoid. And, you know, go watch that. We've had so many people call us and thank us and uh, start accounts, or people that weren't comfortable. They were kind of on the edge about it. They watched it and said, okay, I'm comfortable now. I understand it. And they get started. Or we have a lot of people that once they understand how the industry actually works, they want to move their metal from their current custodian and depository into our depository where they feel safe. So go watch that podcast we did. It answers every question you could have about the IRA world.
Oh, that's
Uh,
my video. Inside the vaults. That's my video. Yeah, you guys got to go there and watch that video if you haven't
sorry,
seen
guys.
it.
yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
And buy
yeah.
the
There,
numbers.
yeah, there's your video that talks about the depository. They can
Oh,
click on
yeah.
podcast and watch
Yeah.
the other one.
And watch the other
Um,
one too. Yeah. So this is definitely, there are definite reasons why you should, this isn't for everyone, right? So if you don't have a IRA or 401k, if you're not interested in that, this isn't for you. Stack, 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 get your own metals, right? That's number one, first and foremost. But if you've got money that is just sitting in the S&P 500, it actually rebounded. I told my nephew yesterday he needs to start paring back his positions and take some profits on each of these spikes and move them into something more secure, like gold, like silver, like other assets. So this would
yeah.
be a way he could do that with his retirement. And yeah,
There-
it's completely legit.
there's so many
I can't
advantages. I
find
mean,
my
depending on
video.
your certain situation, talk to your CPA. But if you're a solopreneur, like you are
Mm-hmm.
basically at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we are near tax season. I mean, I utilized this when I was a solopreneur, before I was an employee at SD Boy. And I'm not a I like to defer as much taxes as I can in my personal. So there's a benefit there too, depending on
Mm-hmm.
your situation. I was deferring a significant amount of my income into a self-retirement account, deferring my taxes, and I can move it into physical, right? And so for there's a lot of different things that you can do. It's not just 401k and employee there. If you have a job or whatever, there's a lot of different ways that you can use these to your benefit.
Do you take solo 401k funds? Not just, would you take 401k, solo 401k, or just IRA?
So if you're actively working at a job where you're taking advantage of a 401k plan, it's going to depend on the plan of the company that you're in.
Mm,
Each person is a case by case
okay.
basis. We have a lady that's an expert on that, so she can help you figure out. But we
Good.
have had people in a current 401k plan that they can actually move money into a
Ooh,
gold IRA. Not not every
interesting.
plan allows it, but
Yep.
some do.
All right. I'll check on that. Let's get over to the Q&A, right? Let's see. We've got good questions coming in here, and some funny ones. All right, man.
Sweet.
You guys are awful. What happened to your
Well, hopefully,
1,000?
hopefully, no questions about the
Vit-
commander. Sure,
no, that we've
nobody's asking
solved
about
that
the
one
next
now.
commander.
Yes,
Oh
we know.
yeah, yeah.
Well, who knows? Somebody might. Vintage Joe, what happened to your 1,000 ounce bars? Did you have 1,000 ounces? I think it's for SD bullion.
Uh,
I don't have a 1,000 ounce bar. I have 100 ounce. That's pretty much it. Silver.
they they come and
1,000 ounce.
go.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Now look at your
Sorry, I don't
site.
have a
I
good
don't know.
answer. That if
Okay.
Cole was on here, he could fill that one
Oh, I'm
for you.
sure. He could tell you how many probably. It's like,
Yeah, we don't have any in stock. That's what they're asking about. Why don't we have any 1,000 ounce
okay.
bars? I mean, I'm sure it's something to do with what's going on in the LBMA. And yeah,
Yeah. Another one here. What's the difference? What difference is it between them, SD bullion, I would assume, and 7K metals? I'm not familiar with 7K metals.
I'm not sure. I want to say that's an MLM, but I could be
Oh,
but I could be
really?
wrong.
Oh, well,
We'd have to
you,
look it up.
you got to be really, really careful. High premium garbage, just hiding the fees within the sale of the items that you want a company that is going to sell you legit items for your gold and silver IRA. That's
Yeah, just go
reasonable.
look it up, Yankee.
Oh,
Go
it's
look it up.
scary.
It's
All
what you
right.
just said.
Is
Yeah.
it okay?
I can't even find a
All right.
bullion product on their
Oh,
website. Yeah.
that's just terrible. And a lot of times people don't know what it costs. You got to call them, call and we'll discuss it, and then they'll try to sell you stuff.
Yeah.
You guys
I'm
don't do
almost
that.
certain this is a MLM where you pay for a membership and then they
Oh, yes,
so
yes, yes. Yeah, I'm not into the subscription model either. I don't know. Maybe you'll come out with one, but for me personally, I want to pick and choose when and what I want. I don't want
I
somebody
mean,
sending me stuff.
here's a four-leaf clover one. This is the first silver product I could find is position one.
All right.
Four-leaf clover, 1 ounce. 1 ounce silver coin. Okay. Ungraded for $125.
Mm.
So I think the answer is we're not ripping you off.
Okay, there's a great
Yeah.
difference. All right.
Yeah.
Here's Rich. Do you guys offer a holding service so I can buy from the UK and have you post when I've got a few things to make the postage a bit more palatable? So I guess it's like they want to send it to you.
Or they want to buy and have it hold it.
Buy from
You
the
can look if
UK.
you're in
I
the
don't
UK,
know.
you can
Yeah.
you can buy it and leave it in our depository if you want.
Mm,
We
okay.
have international customers that take advantage, or that's how they want to hold metal in the US. You could do that if you're in the UK. I'm not really understanding
Okay.
the postage side.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Rich, I'd just reach out to them and get into the details with them. I think that would be best. All right, James, I got one for you, I think. Do you think stacking silver until the GSR falls and then trading for gold and buying gold outright is better?
I think that depends on your age and your risk tolerance because silver is going to be more volatile, and depending on how sure your hands are. Because I mean, basically, you're looking at a timeline that's probably 5 to 10 years for that type of thing to really play out. I always try and overestimate, and there's a lot of people who think this is all happening tomorrow, but I think you have to have patience. You've gone through the 2010s bear, and that was
Mm-hmm.
long and drawn out. And I'm assuming that we're going to have a long drawn out bull market that's going to be manic toward the end. But the ultimate idea of selling some silver and buying gold is definitely partly in my thinking process as well. Always remember, like, if you sell something, you have capital gains taxes on. So that's why, like we were talking about earlier about having an IRA, That's why I like to use my, my IRA in that sense of like trading it and knowing that, hey, I can trade it at all times and there's no capital gains taxes. So it makes trading the gold silver ratio probably a little bit easier
Hmm.
because you're basically going from one metal to the other and it's not a lot of paperwork and there's not any cap gains involved. Whereas if you're doing that as a private investor, there is.
Yeah, one good point, like we should follow up, Yankee. You don't have to have money in an existing retirement account to start an IRA if you want to do some of this stuff.
That's a
You
good
can
point.
start. We had a guy last month that started a new IRA, funded it, bought the metal, and we had it in his allocated storage account within 24 hours. Now,
Wow.
nobody else on
That's
planet Earth can
fast.
do that for you.
That is
And
super
so
fast.
now the
Yeah.
maxes are, what, 7,000 a year or whatever. But
Mm,
you can just go that route if you want,
Hmm.
because again, this is something I'm going to keep preaching because I just don't think if you're understanding the GSR and you want to play that game, or if you want to play the Delta Premium game, the best way to do it is inside an IRA because anytime you trade metal, you have to settle in dollars. That's what the IRS says, right?
Hmm.
As a major, maybe at the local coin shop, you can get away with some things, but at a high level, you're not going to be able to trade gold and silver without settling in the USD and messing with cap gains like James was talking about. So,
Right.
uh, anyways, that's an IRA is great for that.
And I apologize if I mean to imply that you can't open an IRA with you guys. I just get a lot of feedback from people who, for one reason or the other, either don't want to do retirement investing. They don't trust it. I know some people
Yep.
100% in metals, maybe listening right now, and they want
Yep.
nothing to do with any of this, no matter what.
Yep.
And then others, they don't have the option to. They haven't been able to. I want to be sensitive to those people because they complain about it a lot. But definitely, if you
Right.
currently have one, you got to think it through. And
Yeah.
there are reasons why you might want SD bullion to hold your metals. I know that's not, just me saying that is so hard because I want it in my own hands, right? But
Yeah.
I've talked to people who live in an apartment or live in
Yeah.
risky areas, or you even mentioned there are reasons why you want it to be held there. I think those are all valid reasons. So, yeah, there's a lot of details around this, and you should really go to the IRA. I put that in there, ira.sdbullion.com. Check that out and call in and go through your particular details with them. All right, more questions? Why don't we have a 1 ounce? Got another commander question, man. You couldn't get away with it. Why don't we have a 1 ounce commander series? I buy my grandchildren silver for their birthdays and would love to have these for them. I can't afford the 5 ounce for all of them. That would be quite
Yeah.
the gift.
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
I mean, Hayden Tubbs would love. I mean, yeah. I have. I don't have a good answer.
Okay.
I'll say that.
All right.
It's definitely in the consideration bucket. But the question becomes, what do you do? Because we're already five
Mm,
commanders in, right?
yeah, I know. Yeah, it's tough.
So there's a lot of that
Yeah.
stuff that
That
because you
might
don't
not
want
be
to
the
like,
best thing to give the kids. There are a lot of stuff that you have for 1 ounce that'll be wonderful
yeah,
gifts. Maybe not.
yep.
Or maybe just do one kid gets 1.5,
Or get the
and
Yankee
then
round coming out.
the
Yeah.
Yankee round. Oh, please! It's a Yankee and Tim round that SD Bullion is going to be making for us guys. Are they going to be IRA compliant?
100%. Yep.
Oh,
You can retire with Yankee and
there it
Tim.
is, baby. Oh man, I cannot wait to see it. And I'm telling you, Tim's got to come out and see that with me. It's going to be something
Yeah.
amazing when it happens. All right, how long till 90% silver is hard to find? James, is it really dwindling? Big Mike wants to know.
Yeah, I actually was kind of interested. I use a lot of deep research, artificial intelligence sometimes to try and come up with an idea of how much 90% supply there is in the world still.
Hmm.
And after going down this rabbit hole, the estimates was about 3 billion ounces total, right? And I would suggest that those 3 billion ounces total are in firm hands, and or they're getting sold off and melted, remelted, and put back into the industrial demand factor for the silver because it's just so high right now. And obviously, we're having deficits year after year. And if you look at like the forecasts out the next 10 to 15 years, I mean, the solar panel forecasts are just off the charts. And just
Mm.
last week, I mean, Germany said we're allocating 500 billion for infrastructure spend and 100 billion for 100 billion euros for clean air and all that kind of stuff. So of course they're going to be ramping up their silver demand further as time goes along.
And
So
and we really
you just
don't.
have a lot of demand for industrial side of silver.
Right.
I don't see, I just don't see it slowing down. You have the combination of the solar, the batteries,
How about
and
the
all the other.
military?
Yeah, the military is a questionable number. We don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who do research on that and talk about it, and it's one of those highly guarded secrets. But the military obviously uses a lot in their various systems and killing weapons.
So I asked the dude that worked at Raytheon, good friend of mine. So, how much silver in a blank? And he looked at me and
yeah.
went, "Are you serious?" Like, yeah. Can't you tell me? He's like, "No, I can't tell you, Yankee." I'm like, "Oops, sorry. Never mind. I didn't ask."
I didn't ask that. Yeah.
I didn't ask. It's just we were just
I've
kicking.
heard claims of 500 ounces per Tomahawk missile. That's what I've heard.
Well, yeah.
That
There's
would
a
be.
lot of-
I
a lot of-
can't, even if I knew, I wouldn't be able to say. But yeah, I shouldn't have asked that question. But anyway, all right. So we got rapid fire for you, Chase,
Right.
on this IRA. Here we go. How do you handle the IRA tax withholding when taking the distribution in physical metals?
You're gonna market the market.
Yep.
Whenever it's executed. Yep.
Is the buyback price low since metals are segregated in your IRA? Comparable prices offered as if not in an IRA. Is the buyback price going to be artificially lower than it would if you just were selling it just because it's in an IRA?
no.
Or something? Okay, it's
Same
comparable,
price.
right? Good.
Same bid. Yeah.
Good.
Silver and gold. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
Another one. What is the minimum amount to roll over from my 401k?
I want to say I think the minimum is like $500. It's really low.
Okay.
Whatever it is.
Another one asks 403bs too. Another retirement.
Write that into the extra. Yeah. Write that into sales SD Boyan. Write that question in.
Okay.
And I don't know off the top of my
You
head.
don't know off the top of your head? Okay, yeah, that would be good to know. Please, let's see. Please comment on if platinum hits $1,000 an ounce. That means gold has peaked and will go down. Please comment on that. What do you think?
I mean,
Platinum's at
already
1,000.
it's at 1,000 right now. The platinum to gold ratio is at very historic highs. When you look at the long-term chart, it's about as cheap as it's been versus gold since. I mean, you have to go back to before 1900, back when we really didn't understand platinum. And I covered it like 2 or 3 videos back about how crazy the ratio between platinum and gold can get. And in 1968, as the London gold pool was failing, they had a fixed price of gold that was artificially low at 35 an ounce for decades. And at the time, platinum was like 168 an ounce or something along those lines. And it spiked up to, I believe, 15 ounces of platinum to 1 ounce of gold. And then now here we are at, what is it, like 3 to 1. So, you have a swing of something like, I don't know how many X that is, right? 30, 45, a swing from one being so overvalued versus the other. So it wouldn't surprise me further to see gold climb higher at a premium to platinum, because what we're going to be walking into is a monetary and sovereign debt crisis. And generally platinum leads in that type of scenario, or gold leads in that type of scenario. But generally too, when gold tops out in a mania, what ends up happening is platinum kind of comes up from behind and outperforms gold for a while after that. So platinum, I still think 1,000 an ounce is going to be seen as cheap as well in the long term.
Another question here. Where was I? I just had it on my screen. I have $3,500 to spend on metals. Would it be better to purchase gold or silver at these prices? Can I just give you my quick? I broke down. I did a whole video on the breakdown of budgets, what to buy on your budget, right? And in between 1,000 and 5,000, at that time, I said 20% gold, 80% silver. That was my breakdown in that range. I don't know. What do you guys think?
What I always tell people is to write down why you're buying bullion in the first place. Write down exactly like in 100, 200 words, and then read it back to yourself. And if the concern is to have your wealth stored in something very precious, if that's the main driver, is the fear of loss, then you definitely need gold, because the volatility of silver might drive you crazy. But if you're someone who wants a store value, but also something that has the ability to generate a lot of value gains relative to everything else, silver is that beta bet on gold, and that's I think why younger people especially should look at silver, because you have a long time range ahead of you, and silver gapping and outperforming gold by a factor of 3 or more this bull market is something that would be common historically.
What's your okay? This is for both of you. What's your favorite thing to buy when stacking silver?
Personally, when silver eagles are at a low premium like they are right
Yeah.
now, that's what I would do.
Yep.
Just because they just go they go so dear when there's shortages and there's new market entrants. You remember back to COVID era where spot was low 20s, but they were selling onesie twosies for 35 and $40 an ounce.
Mm.
I mean, that type of arbitrage exists, and if you have it in your Roth IRA, you could always swap out and get yourself more ounces. That was an arbitrage that I did.
Yeah,
And
even if you don't, I mean, there were
right.
so many people that took advantage of it and were happy to pay any taxes because you're improving your stack by 30% by just doing a buy and sell. I mean, it
What
was a
an
no-brainer.
arbitrage! That was amazing.
Uh,
Yep.
yeah, so it depends, right? Like
For
for,
you?
for me personally,
Yeah.
I like to buy. Like I just picked up the Commander today when I did your order, Yankee. I like to buy those just to kind of have. But if I'm buying in bulk, it's going to depend on the premium. And right now, I'm buying Silver Eagles because for the exact same reason James said, and with the hopes that in the next decade there presents another opportunity where I can flip those and just improve my stack for doing nothing than just understanding how premiums work in our industry.
Yep. I just picked up a tube. Haven't even broken the seal on that. It's not working silver for my channel.
90% would
Yeah.
90% would also be something to look at,
Yep.
just because it's
Yeah. So
vanishing
cheap.
as well, and it's so cheap right now, and it went into premiums in the COVID era to like 30-40% over spot. So I
Yep.
believe it will reoccur.
MP68 asks Yankee, any date for your proposed Yankee channel route? I don't know the date, guys. It's 2025, though. Sometime this year, it's got to come out. I'm antsy. I got to talk to Cole about that.
Yeah.
Silverback Stacker says, why not make a 5-ounce stacker bar? No, I mean, Scottsdale makes great stacker bars.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, I would have to. Yeah, I'm sure we sell those at SD Boy.
Yeah.
We carry most everything Scottsdale does.
Cool. Are safety deposits boxes safe for gold and silvers? Come on. I want James.
Here's the reason why I don't like safety deposit boxes. They're not FDIC insured, so if stuff gets stolen out of them, that's you
SOL.
basically are,
Yep.
you have a crooked employee at the bank that takes from them, you kind of in a tough spot.
How about
There's
a bank
also
holiday?
There's also been cases, the banks are closed during bank holidays, and or if you need it, maybe you can't access it as well. Like the federal agents and governments, they have access to those, though they can always stormtroop in and take it. So for me, the idea of having a safe deposit box uninsured, to me, just doesn't make much sense.
Okay, go ahead.
Now there are private safety deposit box companies out there, right? I know we have some in Texas. Those are a little bit different. So depending on what you're,
even those, Chase, like there was one in LA that I forget what the name of it was. It was about 2 or 3 or 4 years ago. One of their clients was involved in some type of dirty money situation. There was allegations of them being involved in the drug trade, and basically all their clients, all their stuff got frozen, and the federal agents took everything in the entire facility.
Yep.
And so getting that back, good luck. I'm not sure. I'd have to go look if people not gotten what they had stored there or not, because everyone just gets assumed that they could be guilty until they can prove themselves innocent, and that's it's tough when you're dealing with the federal government to get stuff back that they took.
All right, there's a lot.
Definitely not your first option.
There's a lot here, guys. I don't know if we're gonna get through. We're gonna wrap this up. It's already been over an hour. So Jerky Boys 2 says I'm 59.5. Can I withdraw? I'm almost there. I'll be there in October. Can I withdraw from my SD Bullion retirement account just a little bit?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Take whatever, I don't know the minimums, whatever the minimum is, right? Yeah. Well, you don't even have a minimum at that age. So you can pull whatever you want.
Pull it out. I know that I'll document that process too. I want to see how this whole thing goes. All right. Maybe one more. Let's see. Well, SG says, thanks, Chase, for doing this while being under the weather. He notices info is great. Hope you feel better soon. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Do you think gold and silver are in a mania phase or price is because of the debasing of the dollar, says CD Matt. Do
So
you think?
I personally don't think we're in a mania phase yet. What you need for a mania phase is first and foremost market, media attention and big market participation where, you have institutions who start to really allocate. Right now you have central banks who are buying gold in record volumes, and they've been doing that and are doing it still. I mean, according to Goldman Sachs thus far this year, they've been on tear buying gold even at these prices, right? What's happening is that it's a lot of these central banks are going to bullion over bonds, and bonds used to be what they would save in their sovereign, for their sovereign savings. But a lot of them saw what happened with Russia and the freezing of Russia's assets, and think, well, that could be us if we get on the wrong side of the United States, or if Trump tells us that we have to buy these 100-year bonds and we say no, that who knows what can happen, right? So that's what's happening is people first it's central banks, and then eventually the financial institutions. The retail, they ebbs and flows depending on how that's going, but you need the institutions to really start moving in large capital flows. And then eventually silver gets caught on because people start to look at it and think of, well, if gold's going to do well, silver will as well. And that's where you have the big catch-up rally for silver versus gold.
Mm-hmm. All right, I got to do one more. It's a Commander one. Eagle 3-3. This is for you, Chase. How long did it take to choose the Commander? And what were the debates like behind the scenes? Were they intense? They want to know. Pull it back. Let's see what's going on back there. What is it like making that decision and coming up with the ideas and all that?
Yeah, what really happens is Scottsdale does most of that, and then they present it to us, and we give a little feedback. But I would say they've done an incredible job at selecting those people, right? And we have customers write in pretty regularly with a lot of ideas that we do, copy and paste over to Scottsdale for brainstorm and stuff. But yeah, for the most part, it's those guys that actually bring the good commanders, and it's a great variety. I mean, the next one that's coming out it's already like we've already seen it. I mean, it's amazing how we go from person to person.
And that would be which one? What is it that's next?
I can't do that to Josh.
Oh, of course you can't. Oh man, of course. I just have.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're gonna wrap it up, guys. This is another great episode of Mastering Metals. Thank you so much, Chase and James. And I did put the link for the IRA. Check that out, ira.sdbullion.com, right there in the chat. If you would like to find out more, you can give them a call too and talk through your specific needs. So, all right, guys, any last words before we sign off?
Check out the SD Bullion YouTube channel. Every week we post updates on what's going on in the markets. So it's a free video that I put out at the end of Friday.
Yeah.
So
I forgot to mention that. Let me just shout that out for you, James. That is a must-see video. Every Friday, right?
Yeah. At the end
you have to watch that. It gets deep, deep, deep. And it also really just, breaks through all the FUD out there, right? And all the crap that people are saying on X and stuff. You do a great job of it, James. I look forward to it every Friday. So make sure you go there, sdbullion.com. Sign up for your alerts too there. Go to sdbullion.com/ you can go to sweepstakes. There is a sweepstakes coming up, guys. You don't want to miss out on that. And that way you'll get on their email blast. You get some great deals that way too. So, all right.
Yeah. We put James's video in our Monday email every time. It's the only thing I watch just because, like you said, I know like James isn't going to fluff me to death with a bunch of crap. He's just going to give it like it is. And I feel so much better. I don't have to think as much after watching his videos.
It's the only thing you watch? You don't watch my channel?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I know. I get it.
I meant for market updates.
No. I totally get you, man. All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Take care, everyone.
All right. See you.